Hello, welcome back to the Football Show here at Betfred. Joining me this week in the studio is former Premier League goalkeeper Paul Robinson as we talk about, first of all, transfer deadline day and the winners and losers from the January window, Paul. Let's talk about Everton, shall we, first of all, because not only did they get in a couple of players, but a new manager in Frank Lampard as well. Did you see that coming?
It was obviously he was in for the interviews, and he was one of the top candidates. And I think listening to Mashiri, the owner, Frank obviously interviewed well. He's an impressive guy. He's a very knowledgeable guy and a likeable character. And when he presents to an owner, I suspect he presents very well, especially with the experience that he's had, short experience he's had in management at Derby and at Chelsea. I think he was a victim of Chelsea's, the way that they rotate their managers. I think the job that he did there was a little bit underrated because he kind of had his hands tied really with the transfer embargo, and he's got a really good track record of bringing through younger players and developing younger players and improving them. You look at Mason Mount, you look at Reece James, just as two for an example. And I think he could be a good fit for Everton. I think the immediate danger for them is relegation. I think once they're safe from relegation this year, get enough points in the bag, he's got a free hit for 6 or 12 months because the expectation levels at Everton are really quite low at the moment. They need to be up the table, they need to be in that top 6. That's where a club of that size and stature should be. And I think it's quite a shrewd appointment by them, and I think it's a good job for Frank because I think once he steers them clear of relegation, the immediate danger, he's almost got 12 months as a free hit before he actually starts getting judged.
You'll know him from the England days, I presume, being in the squads with him. Then did he stand out then as a potential manager? He
was very knowledgeable, very clever. He was quite quiet at times in the dressing room, but when things needed to be said, it was calm and constructive. And I can imagine that's the same way that he is with him in his managerial roles. He's a thinker. Like I say, he's well educated, very knowledgeable, and half of the managers that do fail from coming out of football, you see, great players don't often make great managers because they don't have the ability to stand in front of a room, to dominate a room and to manage and to get across the point that they want. So not all top players are top coaches or managers, but Frank has the ability to do that because he is very, very knowledgeable, well switched on. He's a likeable guy, and he can walk into a room, players will relate to him because he's so fresh out the game as well.
Well, the Everton fans certainly seem to be pleased that he's on board. I think they just wanted to get rid of Rafa, didn't they? At any cost in the end. But they are in trouble, as you mentioned, just one win in 14. We think they're going to stay up 1-7. They are to stay up, the 4-1 to get relegated. They got Brentford in the Cup at the weekend, then Newcastle, Leeds and Southampton. So it looks like a decent little run, doesn't it, to come?
Yeah, it's a tough run of fixtures for them, but it's games that he'll be looking to win against teams around them. Is that the FA Cup this weekend certainly won't be high on his priority list, but he'll want to get off to a winning start. And you know he's on to a winner really because it's a game where you would normally change the side, change the 11, mix it up, give a few different players games, but the new managers come in, so everybody wants to impress the new manager. So regardless what 11 he's going to put out, players aren't going to be disgruntled at playing. If Rafa was there and he changed the starting 11 and the reserves were playing, the lads that weren't in the squad were playing, it'd be kind of, I'm only playing this game because you know that he's resting the others. Whereas now everyone's got a clean slate, so I think it'll be a good test for them against Brentford.
OK, his first day in the job was deadline day. He brought in Donny van de Beek on loan from Manchester United, and of course Dele Alli up to £40 million that could be from Spurs. Good signings to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think you forget the right back from Rangers as well. I think they've had a really good window, Everton. I think they've strengthened the starting 11. They've not just added bodies for adding bodies' sake. They've added 3 quality players to the starting 11. And I think if you look at the way that they could potentially line up, I think you look at Allan, Doucouré and Van der Beek as a midfield 3 with Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison and Dele Alli in behind him. So if they're going to play a 4-3-3, that's not a bad front, 2 lines of 3 if you like. And I think Frank can get the best out of Dele Alli. He desperately needed a move, in my opinion. Said for a while that he's gone stale, needed a new voice, needed a fresh challenge. And I think Frank, understanding the modern day player as well and that position. And Dele, he looks like the type of player, listen, we forget he's only 25. You know, he's still got a lot of his career ahead of him, the amount that we expect from him. His standards the last 2 or 3 seasons have dropped. Some of that is down to the managers with the relationships that he's had, but a lot of it is down to himself. The harder he seems to work, the more it doesn't seem to come off for him. He's like a third man running, he plays off the cuff. He doesn't want responsibilities, and when he doesn't think about it, that's when he's at his best. And I think Frank can bring that out of him.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because quite a few managers now at Tottenham haven't fancied him, have they?
They haven't fancied him and they haven't played him. And I think the hardest thing when you get into a situation like that for a player like Dele, who went from, let's not forget, it was an England regular, not just a squad member, he was a regular starter for England, to not being able to get a game at Tottenham. So that plays on your mind. And then when he does get a game at Tottenham, he knows he's not going to get a run of games unless he performs. So he'll come in for 1 game, possibly 2, and if he doesn't perform, he's out the team again. So it's a really difficult circle to break, and I think going to Everton gives him that fresh challenge.
Okay, and before we move on, Everton, no problems in staying up?
No, I think, I'm looking down there, and I think my old club Leeds, I think they'll be okay as well. I think they've got players coming back, although it was a disappointing window for them. Really disappointed they didn't bring players in. Everton have got more than enough to stay up. Nobody's ever too good to go down, but I think looking down there, Everton and Leeds are fine. I think it's going to be 3 of the 4 that are down there already. Okay,
talking of Dele Alli, of course, the club Dele left is Spurs, your former club, so let's chat about them and the business that they did in the transfer window. Kulusevski's come in along with Bentancur as well, both from Juventus. What do you make of those signings?
Kulusevski's an interesting one. He's come in on an 18-month loan deal to start with. But these are 2 players that Paratici signed for Juventus as well. So it's players that he knows very, very well. Bentancur excites me. I think he's a top player. I think he's immediately going to come into the starting 11 and strengthen the starting 11. Kulusevski will play a bit part, but I think he's very similar to what we've got in Son, Bergwijn, Lucas Moura, that type of position. He's very much left foot dominated. He'll play on the right hand side, cut in on his left foot. Great delivery, exciting winger. Maybe a little bit different to what we've got because he's predominantly left footed. I wouldn't see him going straight into the starting 11, whereas Bentancur will. He'll come in and he'll make a huge difference. He's a combative midfielder, he tackles, he can assist, he can also get in the box as well. He's a really good signing. But the one thing that did please me from the window, the manager was allowed free rein to do what he wanted. So there was all the talk, would Daniel Levy back the manager, would he back him financially? He has backed him financially in a way because he's allowed 120 million worth of talent to go out of the door. And Ndombele has been a huge problem off the field. His attitude and application hasn't been anywhere near, and his performances on the field have been poor. £65 million, that's just gone out on loan. Yes, it's off the wage bill, but they've allowed him to leave. Lo Celso, another one that they paid money for, big money for, he's gone out on loan. Bryan Hill, he looks slight, he didn't look ready for the Premier League. The manager's gone, he can go out on loan. So Daniel Levy has he's kind of loosened the strings and allowed the manager to manoeuvre in the way that he wants. With the 2 players coming in, it's 2 players that the manager obviously wanted, liked, and wants to be part of his squad. Tottenham's not a quick fix. It's not going to be fixed in one transfer window. January's notoriously a difficult window anyway. The manager needs backing in the next 2 or 3 windows, because the last game that Spurs played against Chelsea played really well. I don't think Antonio Conte could have asked much more of Spurs. They played well, but that just showed the gulf in class.
OK, let's hear a bit more then from one of Spurs' new signings, Bentancur, and hear from our South American football expert, Tim Vickery.
Lanky Uruguayan midfielder, came through the ranks in Argentina with Boca Juniors. Reminds me a little bit of Lucho Gonzalez, lanky Argentine midfielder who played in Portugal and in France and for the Argentine national team. Like him a lot, think he can dictate the rhythm of play from deep, but it hasn't quite developed at Juventus as he would have liked. And my question mark from a Tottenham point of view is, are you getting anything from him that you don't already have in Harry Winks? Yeah, I wonder if, and part of this is his build, because he's very lanky. So he looks a little bit more languid than maybe he is. So you wonder about him at the increased speeds of the Premier League. So I like him a lot, but as I say, I can't really see that he's the player that Tottenham need at the moment.
OK, and that was Tim Vickery then. So he's not certain that he's going to replace Alexa Winks or Højbjerg in the side, but definitely a great addition to the squad.
He's a good addition to the squad, but for me, he comes into the side. I think Højbjerg had a good season last year, but I don't think he's reached those levels this year. He's looked a little bit off the pace at times, and I think the way that Conte plays, he's going to play the 2 holding midfielders. He's got Winks, Skip, and he's got Højbjerg. For me, Bentancur is the best of the 4. I think he comes in and he plays alongside either Winks or Skip at the moment, because Højbjerg, I think, needs to come out of the team for a rest at the moment.
OK, so you mentioned the manager has been backed in the transfer window. Should they have done more? Is this enough to get in the top 4 this season, do you think?
I'd like to hope so. They're in a fight with the other teams up there. West Ham, Arsenal, Manchester United, who've all got, West Ham have got European football to contend with again, coming back in February. They're going to have a squad rotation. West Ham didn't bring anybody in. We know that their squad is slightly threadbare at times. They've not got any reinforcements, and they're going to have to compete on all fronts. Manchester United, you don't know what you're going to get. They're so indifferent week in and week out. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of talk surrounding Pogba and their search for a new manager between now and the end of the season. So is that going to be a distraction? And you look at Arsenal. I mean, it's there for Tottenham. If you look at you can make an argument for any of those 4 teams, But when you look at it and you look at what Conte's done under Spurs, defensively they're a lot more robust. They concede a lot less goals. They're starting to look a lot better. They're nowhere near a finished article. You talk about Manchester City, Chelsea, Liverpool. They're nowhere near that bracket, as are none of the other 4 teams. But with what Tottenham are competing with, there's every chance they could, and I think they have got a real good opportunity to this year.
Yeah, we make them 13-8 to get in the top 4. They are 7th in the table, only a couple of points though off Manchester United, and they do have 2 games in hand on them. Right, that's towards the top of the table. Let's have a look towards the bottom, shall we? And the big spenders, everybody knew, would be Newcastle, and they have brought plenty of players in. 18th in the table, just a point off in safety though with Norwich. They've got a game in hand as well, and they brought in lots of players. Guimarães, Targett, Burn, to mention 3 that have come in most recently. What do you make of their business?
I think they've signed wisely. You know, when the takeover came in, everybody knew that Newcastle had billions, and all of a sudden you're talking about Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, people like that. The fans are expecting names like that. But Eddie Howe was brought in because he knew the Premier League and he knows how to keep a team in the Premier League, and he had to sign players for the here and now. Don't get me wrong, in 2 years' time, when Newcastle are trying to, 2 or 3 years' time, when they're trying to compete in the Champions League, they're going to be shopping in a different shop to what they shopped in this transfer window. They overpaid for players that would have gone to other clubs for less money. I think Kieran Trippier was a very clever acquisition. First one through the door. Other players look at that and go, well, I don't really fancy a relegation fight. Oh, well, Kieran Trippier's gone there. So, there's a real opportunity. Chris Wood then comes in. And I think they've signed players that are ready for the fight, that are ready for the battle. And the only problem that Eddie Howe is going to have is integrating those players into his squad and how quickly they settle. Because Newcastle are in a position now where they can't just go into games wanting to take things from games. They need to win games, and they need to win games quickly. He's got quality in there. He's got players in there who know the Premier League, and I think their window has been a very sensible window. They've had to pay the Newcastle tax, if you like, because everybody knows the situation that they're in at the bottom of the league and how much money they've got. But I don't suspect that they'll be bothered about that should they stay in the Premier League. And I think with the signings that they've got, they've given themselves a better opportunity than what they had.
OK, well, let's hear about the new record signing, shall we, from Lyon, Bruno Guimarães. Now, players from the French League hasn't always worked out if they're coming into England and the Premier League. Let's hear once again from Tim Vickery and find out whether he'll be a success.
All-round midfielder. The first thing to mention about him is his strong character. Takes responsibility, likes the big occasion. And if you're at the wrong end of the Premier League, that's a good bloke to have in your lineup. You know, you're looking around the dressing room, difficult situation, right? We're better off with him. My worry about him is that I don't think for a world-class midfielder, I don't think he moves the ball quick enough. He was a little bit shown up when in that bubble when the Champions League returned in 2020. And Lyon beat City and then lost to Bayern Munich. But he had to be taken off early in both those games because when he'd been pressed like that, he just didn't have the time to get himself onto his stronger right foot and make the pass. And he just wasn't in the game at all. So they had to take him off early. Against Bayern, they took him off at half-time. Now, I'm told he's worked hard, especially on his weaker left foot since then. And he's moving in the right direction. So very competitive, athletic, box to box. That's my little worry about him, that for a world-class midfielder, does he move the ball quick enough?
And quite a nice story I hear with he's got the number 39 shirt at Newcastle. And quite a nice story behind that. It's the cab number his dad used to drive. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. And he's moving. His career is now moving at a pace quicker than any taxi can reach.
So Tim Vickery once again, this time on the Brazilian Bruno Guimarães, who's come into the side. If you look at his stats this season for Lyon in terms of duels, tackling, chances created, he's right up there.
He's a top player. He's a world-class midfielder, box to box, combative, and he's that next level. You know, we talked about the players that Newcastle signed this window in the here and now for the current situation they're in. He's one of the players that they'll be looking to sign in 2 or 3 years' time when they're challenging for the Champions League. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he settles into that. I don't think he's ever been in a relegation battle. You know, it's a tough fight that he's got on his hands, but he's the type of world-class midfielder. If you'd have said that he's gone to Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, Manchester United, there wouldn't have been an eyebrow raised. So that's the first real big one that Newcastle have got. He's a player that really impresses me. OK, Newcastle then, up or down? It's going to be difficult for them. I think the appointment of Watford for Roy Hodgson, I think that's shaken things up there. And I think, you know, Norwich have started winning games, Burnley, I never ever think they'd go down because of my time there and spending time with Sean Dyche. But I watched them firsthand this year against Leeds, and it's the first time that they've been in the Premier League this time that I've actually been worried about them. Yes, they've got games in hand, but you look at who those games in hand are against. They've got a massive game this week against Watford when everyone else is playing the FA Cup. Burnley play Watford at home. That's a massive game. So I'm dodging your question. Newcastle up or down? I think they will, in all honesty, I think they might just get out of it by the skin of their teeth. It pains me to say it because I wouldn't like to back Burnley to go down simply because of the quality that they've got there, and they've been there, they've done it. The manager knows how to get out of it. But this year, I just don't know if it's one too many for them. So I think Newcastle could get out of it by the skin of the teeth. Well, I think the odds might suggest that as well.
Well, a quick word on the Clouds, because they lost Chris Wood, but they brought Weghorst in from Wolfsburg, who looks like a pretty good replacement. 6'6", got a good record, 1-2 for Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. So I guess the positive is they've not lost Tarkowski and some of the other key players, and they have brought like for like in.
I think they've brought better in all honesty. I think Weghorst is a better player than Chris Wood, and I think Chris Wood was maybe going a little bit stale there at Burnley. I think he's only scored 2 or 3 this season, and I think to get £25 million for a 30-year-old who wasn't really doing it week in and week out, wasn't performing and scoring the goals that they needed, I think it's a great bit of business. I don't think that they've done enough this window. I think they needed to strengthen in other areas. I think there was opportunities, in wide areas where they could have strengthened to give them a little bit more pace in midfield. The midfield at times is a bit pedestrian-like, but the business that they did regarding Chris Wood and Weghorst was good business for me. I mean, he's 25. They activated a release clause he's 30 at 25 million. They had to let him go. Should they get relegated, that release clause, I'm led to believe, would have been a lot less. So the business that they did regarding Chris Wood and Weghorst was a good bit of business. I still think they didn't do enough business, though.
Yeah, we think they'll go down as well. 1-2, Burnley to go down, and 6-4 to stay up, as much as it pains Paul. And we might be right. Right, let's move on to Liverpool. Second in the table, 9 points off City, but they've got the game in hand. They've got a game at the Etihad to come. They wanted to strengthen towards the end of the season. They brought in Luis Diaz, a Colombian winger from Porto. He's been ripping up in the Portuguese league this season. Obviously, cover for those 3 in the front line. Good bit of business for you?
I think their hand was forced really with Tottenham, because I think Tottenham came into the mix and they tried to sign him this window. I think it was a player that Liverpool were looking to sign in the summer, so I don't think they needed to kind of upset that mix just yet with the 3 that they've got and Jota coming in. I think they've got a lot of quality in that area, Liverpool, but he's a player that they've obviously admired and wanted for a while, and they saw Tottenham coming in to pinch what they wanted. And again, that shows you the gulf in quality and in class a little bit where teams are. Liverpool have gone, okay, we'll have you, and he's gone, okay, I'll leave Tottenham. And Traore with Barcelona and Tottenham in a similar kind of way. So Tottenham have got to get to that next level, but I think it's a very shrewd bit of business by Liverpool. They normally do their due diligence very well on players. You look at what they paid for Jota. 2 seasons ago, we talk about the front 3, Salah, Mane, Firmino. Who's ever going to break in that front 3? Who else could come into that front 3 should one of them not be fit? And they went out and they recruited Jota excellently, from what you hear on the training ground as a person and as a player. I mean, this year has really stepped up to the plate. They're getting the players back now from the African Cup of Nations. I said before the African Cup of Nations, if they were there or thereabouts when these players come back into the squad, they've got a real opportunity, and they're in a good position at the moment, Liverpool.
Okay, 6-1 if you do fancy Liverpool to win the title this season. Right, that's a look back on Monday. Transfer deadline day coming to an end, of course. Let's look ahead to the weekend with the exception of Burnley versus Watford, which you mentioned. It is the FA Cup 4th round. And loads of games on TV, which is good to see. So Friday night, Manchester United, Middlesbrough, 8 o'clock kickoff. United clear favourites at 2-7. Middlesbrough going well in the Championship. Can they do something here?
Well, looking at the stats, I mean, Middlesbrough are going well in the Championship. Chris Wilder's only lost 2 in 12. And 8 of those were wins. I mean, he's had a real effect. Matt Crooks, midfielder that's come in, he scored 6 already this season. And I think Middlesbrough are trying to chase those automatic promotion places. I think they're not to be underestimated going to Old Trafford. Man United have only got 5 clean sheets all season. Both teams generally score whenever they play. So I mean, I'm looking at all the stats now. Middlesbrough have had more than 2.5 goals in every FA Cup game this season. They're not afraid to go forward. They're not afraid to attack teams. But we know the quality that Manchester United have got. I don't think it's going to be as big a foregone conclusion, as the odds make it out to be.
OK, maybe United to get through, but only just in that one. Kidderminster Harriers take on West Ham. What a story this is. 12:30 on Saturday, live on the Beeb. The lowest ranked side left. There's 113 places between the two, and we make West Ham 1-5 to win it.
I'm going to try and make a case against you. I'm really going to try and make a case. For me, I think this could be the shock of the round. It could be. 6th tier of English football. West Ham are coming off the back of 2 straight defeats.
OK, two sides in the Premier League also taking place on Saturday. It's Tottenham take on Brighton. There's not much between them in the table. I was looking back at the recent meetings. 6 of the last 7 meetings only decided by a single goal as well. So it could be tricky, this one.
And Brighton are the draw specialists, aren't they? 4 of the last games, they finished 1-1. I mean, I remember sitting here before and tipping Brighton to draw, and Brighton normally always draw. Spurs don't score that many under Antonio Conte, but defensively they're quite sound. Both teams have scored. Brighton in their last 6 games they've scored, Spurs in the last 4. So there's an opportunity for goals, but I don't think there's going to be that many goals. It's going to be a tight Premier League clash. And you look at it and you think, which one of these 2 teams actually really want to win this game? Because Spurs are really going to be focusing on that top 4. They've got an opportunity there.
I mean, they need a trophy, though. You were the last one to lift
I know,
the trophy.
that's a dinosaur like me. That shows how long ago it was. They do desperately need a trophy. And a trophy and a top 4 finish this season would be almost unthinkable from where they were when they started the season. I think the main focus has to be top 4 because that's where the finances is, that's where the Champions League is. A cup run, you never know. I think we'll see a changed Antonio Conte side. System will stay the same. I think we'll maybe see the new players coming in. I think we'll see players rested. It'll be a close game, but I'm going to go for Spurs by the odd goal in this one, probably by 1 goal.
OK, a few more live games to get through. Liverpool taking on Cardiff Sunday lunchtime on ITV. Liverpool 1-8 to win this. Any chance for Cardiff to do anything here?
No. Please don't replay that and when it comes back to me. Cardiff 20th in the Championship, 6 points off the bottom 3. But they beat Forest 2-1 in the last game. So they've shown a little bit of revival, Steve Morrison's team. They're in trouble. They've brought 4 loans in this window. They've recalled 2 players from loan this window. And all 6 of those players started against Forest. So that tells you that he's not happy with the team that he's got. They've only won 7 games in the league all season. It's really hard to make a case, even against a much-changed Liverpool team. Jurgen Klopp's never won the League Cup, the FA Cup. It's going to be something. We know he's going to change his team up. We know we're going to see different people coming into that Liverpool 11. Anfield's notoriously hard to go, especially when you're near the bottom of the Championship, struggling for a win. I can't really make any case for Cardiff. My tip for this one is wait for the team sheet, pick your goal scorer, Liverpool to win by more than 3.
Yeah, interesting. Liverpool have only been past this stage of the competition once in the last 6 seasons, but at home against a struggling Cardiff side, you'd have to fancy them. Forest against Leicester should be good this derby. We've not seen this for 8 years, by the way. Sunday, 4 o'clock on the BBC. Leicester are the favourites, but not by much. They're even money. It's 9-4 for Forest.
Yeah, I think it's a close one, this one. I think if you're brave enough, put Forest into your accas. We saw what they did last time out against Arsenal. Leicester 10th in the Premier League this year. Up and down in different performances. They will change the team again. Leicester beat Watford 4-1 in the last round, but in different form. Conceded a lot of goals for me this season, Leicester. And I just think this could be potentially, I don't know, would it be an upset, do you think, a Championship team beating Leicester? It'd probably be a small upset, wouldn't it? And the odds would suggest that. But I think Forest with a home advantage, that home crowd and the way that they played against Arsenal last time, I think they can cause Leicester a few problems. So I've actually written down Forest to win with home advantage, but both teams to score.
OK, good stuff. Right, finally, we have got on Sunday night, 6:30, Bournemouth taking on Boreham Wood, the only other non-league side left in the competition. However, they are going very well in the National League, so they may well be in the Football League next season. It's the first time in the 4th round. They're yet to concede a goal as well in the competition, but it's away, isn't it, against a side that could be in the Premier League next season? It's
a massive ask for Boreham Wood. I mean, they've done unbelievably well to get this far in the competition. But they're going to a Bournemouth side who have recruited incredibly well. I think on the deadline, they were all surprised at the amount of activity that they've got. I mean, Scott Parker seemed to stockpile players on deadline
day.
They
suddenly realise there is a transfer window.
All of a sudden, they from nowhere, they stockpile players, but they got quality in as well. And they got quality in to improve an already good team. I think this really is going to be a step too far for Boreham Wood. I think, when we talk about the other teams, if roles were reversed and this was at Boreham Wood, as West Ham have to go to Kidderminster, there's a little romance in the FA Cup here, there. This will just be a great day out for Boreham Wood. I mean, going to the South Coast, playing in front of a lot of fans more than they used to. And as you say, National League 5th, chasing promotion. it's very difficult to make a case. I mean, Bournemouth have been doing well. They've only lost to Hull in the last 7. That's the only game that they've lost, and they weren't expected to lose that. So unfortunately, I find it a very difficult one for Boreham Wood. So I think this one is one for your betting slip, is a Bournemouth win. As to how many?
Yeah, okay. Right, that's a roundup then of the live games in the FA Cup this weekend. What would be the best bet, Paul?
Oh, well, I've done me upsets. I've done 3 possible upsets. So I've looked at it all, and you look at Chelsea, Plymouth, you can't really make a case for Plymouth at Chelsea. First one that we touched on was Kidderminster, West Ham. So if you're brave and you fancy a real big accumulator for a couple of small pound, £2,
9-1 by the way.
£2.50, Kidderminster against West Ham. Wigan are doing really well in League One. They're away at Stoke. I think you'll get a good odds at Wigan at Stoke, and Forest to beat Leicester. So my little tricky accumulator, if you put a £5 on it, it might get you a few quid. Kidderminster, Wigan and Notts Forest.
Okay, that will be absolutely massive, I can tell you. Thank you very much for your company once again. Hopefully we see 1 or 2 big shocks in the FA Cup. That's what we all like, don't we, at this stage of the season. It's going to be interesting over the weekend, see what happens. And of course, Paul will have one eye on Turf Moor in that big game in the Premier League. Don't forget that Burnley against Watford. We'll review it all next week on The Football Show.